Calais Campbell's mother was found dead inside an Atlanta home, and the heartbreaking case has left his family at the center of a homicide investigation. As investigators continue piecing together what happened, disturbing new details are beginning to emerge, and new reports are now raising questions about Calais Campbell's possible involvement. Let me break it down. A Tuesday afternoon in Atlanta's Buckhead neighborhood. Not a crime scene, not yet, just a welfare check. That's how this starts. An Atlanta Police Department death investigation news release says officers were called to a home to conduct a welfare check around 12:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Someone in the family was worried, couldn't get in, couldn't get a straight answer, so they made the call. The scene unfolded on Tuesday afternoon when police responded to a welfare check in Buckhead. Relatives had grown worried about 71-year-old Calais Campbell and requested that emergency personnel check the upscale townhouse. When officers pulled up, the door was locked, the windows dark. The suspect had initially barricaded himself inside the home before officers successfully entered the property to detain him. That's the first sign something is wrong. You don't barricade yourself inside a house during a welfare check unless there's something inside you don't want the world to see. Upon arrival, police found a man barricaded inside the house. He was immediately detained. Further investigation led officers to an unresponsive elderly woman also inside the house. She was pronounced dead on the scene. Calais Campbell, 71 years old. The matriarch gone. Authorities later identified the individual as 41-year-old Calais Campbell, the older brother of Calais Campbell. He wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a break-in suspect. He was her son. And the details that came out of those arrest warrants, they don't leave much to the imagination. Arrest warrants say Calais Campbell's throat was cut, and Calais Campbell was found in possession of a knife. He was still inside the home when officers arrived. The knife was still there. He didn't run. Calais Campbell, 41, was booked into the Fulton County Jail, where he was being held without bond, and waived his initial court hearing Wednesday on charges, including aggravated assault and murder. Waived his court appearance. No bond. Murder charges. Felony murder charges. According to Fulton County Jail records, Calais Campbell has been charged with murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a knife or gun during the commission of a felony. Now here's the thing that makes this worse. The family didn't just get hit from one direction on this. They're grieving a woman they loved, and the person charged with taking her life is one of their own. That's the kind of grief that doesn't have a name. In a 911 call, the caller tells the dispatcher that he is outside his mother's house with his brother and sister-in-law and that they're trying to get inside. He says he can see another brother who is described as mentally ill and lives with their mother inside the home. The brother inside said their mother had left, but a neighbor's camera footage showed she hadn't. That last detail, a neighbor's camera, that's what blew the story open. Kiar had told whoever was asking that Calais had left the house, but a surveillance camera pointed right at the front of the property told a completely different story. She never walked out. The caller said Calais Campbell claimed their mother had left the house. However, according to the caller, a neighbor's surveillance footage appeared to contradict that account because it showed she had not left the property. That's when the family stopped waiting and dialed 911. The NFL world is processing all of this in real time. The Ravens, the Cardinals, the fans, none of them saw this coming. And once you understand who Calais Campbell was to this family, the weight of it hits differently. Off the field, Calais has long been recognized for his commitment to serving others. He and his family, including his mother Natial and siblings Keon, Kimba, Jamar, Raj, Chiare, Severin, and Jared, founded the Charles R. Campbell Foundation to honor their late father, Charles R. Campbell, who died in 2003. The foundation focuses on supporting children, strengthening families, and continuing Charles Campbell's legacy of community service. The woman who was murdered was not just a mother. She was a co-founder of a family legacy built on service. She was a cornerstone, and the man charged with taking her life helped build that same foundation alongside her. That's what makes this story so hard to process. This isn't some distant tragedy with strangers on a police report. This is Calais Campbell's family, a family known across the country for how tightly they stick together, and it fell apart inside a Buckhead townhouse on a Tuesday afternoon. Here's the thing about this story, it didn't come out of nowhere. The murder of Calais Campbell didn't arrive without warning. There were signs, there were calls, there were reports filed and incidents documented, stretching back months. Fulton County Jail records indicate this is his first offense in Atlanta, but police have responded to at least 10 calls dating to last September at the mother's home. 10 calls, 10 separate incidents at that address. And still, Natil Campbell ended up dead inside that townhouse. LT Christopher Butler confirmed a brief look into the history show's calls back in April dealing with the location, including a possible arson incident. There have been some indications of some mental health issues with an individual, Butler said. That's putting it mildly, because the police incident reports tell a far more specific story than any press conference ever will. According to a police incident report, a sister of Calais Campbell called police on April 24 and said her brother was inside the home and had started a fire to rid the house of the demons. The sister told an officer that their mother lived there but had not been at the house for a week because Calais Campbell has overtaken the home. Let that sit for a second. A fire inside the house to remove demons, and his mother had already fled. She hadn't been living there for a week because her own son had taken over the property. Neighbors called the police on multiple occasions to report disturbances, and Natil Campbell told an officer in mid-April that her son had not been taking medication prescribed to treat schizophrenia. So we know several things at this point. TR had a diagnosed mental illness, schizophrenia. He had stopped taking his medication. He had started a fire in the house. He had driven his own mother out of her home, and the neighbors had called the cops multiple times over disturbances. All of this before June 30th. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution also learned Calais turned off the power to his house during another incident. His mother told police at the time her son was not using his medication for schizophrenia. A neighbor told police Calais was acting strange and showed officers a video of him banging on her front door. What emerges from all of these reports is a picture of a man in serious psychological distress, living in his mother's home, untreated and escalating. The sister who called about the fire on April 24 told police directly that her brother suffered from mental illness. She wasn't vague, she was explicit, and police came, and they left, and the situation kept brewing. According to Chiari's defense attorney, Jay Apt, police have obtained search warrants for the home, clothing, and DNA to further investigate the case. That means there's more evidence being processed. The investigation is ongoing, and law enforcement isn't just taking the arrest warrant at face value. They're building a full picture. DNA, clothing, the physical structure of the home itself. But here's what hangs over all of it. The family knew, the sisters knew, the neighbors knew, and the system, with its welfare checks and incident reports and visits, kept cycling through without ever changing the ending. Police records show Natil Campbell had been staying away from the property for about a week because her son had allegedly overtaken the home. Another report from mid-April stated that Natil told officers her son had not been taking medication prescribed to treat schizophrenia. She was sleeping somewhere else. She was afraid to be in her own home, and at some point before June 30th, she went back. We don't know why. We don't know what she hoped, but she went back, and she never came out. That gap between what the family reported and what the system was able to do is where this tragedy lives. It didn't just happen, it built, slowly, with evidence scattered across police reports and 911 logs over months. And now Natil Campbell is gone, and her son Chiar is sitting in a cell without bond. The mental health dimension of this case is going to be one of the most important threads as it moves through the courts, because what Abdit does with it and what prosecutors argue in response will determine not just what happens to Chiar, but how this family is forced to tell this story in public over and over again in a courtroom. To understand what this family lost, you have to understand who Natil Campbell actually was. Not just as a mother, as a person, as a force. The family described Natil Campbell as the matriarch and noted she reunites with her late husband Chuck. Chuck, Charles Richard Campbell, died in 2003. For more than 2 decades, Natil held this family together on her own. 8 kids, a sprawling family network built across multiple cities, and a football star son who became one of the most respected men in the NFL. Calais credits his father for teaching him the value of being generous with his time and active in his community. When he decided to start his own foundation, he used the opportunity to honor the man who raised him, calling it the CRC Foundation after his father, Charles Richard Campbell. But Natil wasn't just a woman in the background of that story. She was active in it. In the spirit of family, Calais's 5 brothers and 2 sisters are active with the CRC Foundation and often work with him to put on foundation events. Think about that. The foundation runs Thanksgiving meal giveaways, Christmas shopping events for kids, after-school programs, and Natil and the siblings were in the thick of all of it. Since 2012, Calais' Thanksgiving event has been one of the CRC Foundation's most recognizable annual initiatives. His Cheer for a Cause campaign provides a Cardinals fan with the opportunity to select a charity of their choice to receive a donation from the foundation. The woman who died in that Buckhead townhouse helped build all of that. She was the spirit behind the foundation that Calais built in his father's name, and now she's gone too. The foundation that was meant to honor one parent's legacy has now become connected to the tragedy of the other's death. Calais Campbell was 71 years old. She raised a 6-time Pro Bowl defensive lineman. She raised a family of 8, with one of her other sons, Kiar, who played college football at Colorado State. Kiar played football at Colorado State University and is the older brother of the NFL star, according to the New York Post. So this wasn't just a household. It was a family with athletic roots, with ambition, with values built on community service. And it produced someone like Calais, who has spent 19 years in the NFL and never stopped talking about his mother, his family, and where he came from. Campbell is one of the most tenured and well-respected players in the league, being named Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year in 2019. That award, the highest honor the NFL gives to a player who makes an impact beyond the field, was his. And the foundation he ran to earn it was built alongside Natale. When the family released a statement, they didn't talk about the charges. They didn't mention TR by name. They reached for the only thing that made sense to them in that moment: faith. We are devastated to share that the Campbell family has lost its matriarch, Mrs. Natale Campbell. While the details of her passing are still being investigated, we take comfort in knowing she is reunited with our father, her beloved Chuck, and in the arms of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We ask for privacy at this time so that we may honor her and share in our overwhelming grief, privately and as a family. Calais Campbell also created the Charles Richard Campbell Foundation in memory of their late father, who died in 2003. That statement does something that very few grief statements do. It holds two things at once: the devastation of losing their mother and the need to protect what little privacy they have left, while their family is being pulled apart in front of the entire country. It doesn't address the arrest. It doesn't name Shiar. It asks people to let them grieve, and that restraint, from a family that has every reason to be screaming, says more about who they are than any press release ever could. When news like this breaks, the league moves fast, not always with substance, but fast. And in this case, the responses from around the NFL felt like something more than the usual PR template. The Ravens put out a statement that was direct. A Ravens spokesperson said, "We are incredibly saddened to learn about the passing of Calais Campbell's mother. We extend our deepest condolences and full support to Calais and his family during this difficult time." The team asked that everyone respect the family's privacy while they grieve from this heartbreaking loss. That's his current employer, the team he's about to suit up for in what will be his 19th NFL season. Calais Campbell, 39, is entering his 19th NFL season after signing a 1-year, $5.5 million contract with Baltimore in April. A man going into his 19th season just had his mother murdered, allegedly by his brother. But the Cardinals, the team he spent the bulk of his career with, 10 seasons in Arizona, went further. The Cardinals posted, "At this time of unfathomable tragedy, our hearts are with Calais Campbell and his family. We hope they find strength and comfort in the love, prayers, and support that surround them now and in the days ahead." Unfathomable tragedy. That phrasing is doing a lot of work, because even for a league that sees tragedy, injuries, deaths, crime, this one hits differently. The person charged isn't an outside attacker. It's not a random incident on a city street. It's a brother in his mother's home with a knife. The case has shocked the NFL community, as police records also point to a history of previous incidents at the family home. And that history is what people in the league are talking about privately. Because Calais Campbell is not just any player. He's not a guy who keeps his head down and collects paychecks. He's been a vocal figure in his community for nearly 2 decades. Over his long career, he has become one of the NFL's most respected defensive players, earning 6 Pro Bowl selections, first-team All-Pro honors, and a spot on the league's 2010s All-Decade team. The 39-year-old former Miami Hurricane spent 10 seasons with the Cardinals and also played in Jacksonville, Atlanta, and Miami. Campbell has 117 career sacks in 278 games, including 259 starts. He's one of the most decorated active defensive players in the history of the sport, and he's known in Atlanta. Specifically, he played for the Falcons. The city has a connection to him, and now that same city is the site of his mother's death and his brother's arrest. Meanwhile, the defense is already in motion. Jay Abdi, an attorney representing TR, told ABC affiliate WSB that his client is innocent until proven guilty. We vigorously protest his innocence. We look forward to his day in court. I'm honored to defend him, and most importantly, the Campbell family. I'm asking on their behalf that the public respect their privacy. At this time, he told the station. That last line is interesting. Abdi is speaking on behalf of the Campbell family, framing his defense of Calais as being in the family's interest. He can't address the mental illness history on the record. While he could not comment on whether T.R. Campbell lived with his mother, has mental illness, or was previously arrested, Abdi did say his client is innocent until proven guilty, but he doesn't have to say it on record. The police reports have already said it. The 911 calls have already said it. The schizophrenia diagnosis, the missed medication, the fire set to drive out demons, all of it is out there now. The defense will almost certainly build around the mental health history, and that's going to put this entire case in a very different frame than a straightforward murder prosecution. What that means for the trial, for the charges, for potential outcomes, nobody can say yet. But the courtroom battle that's coming is going to be one of the most watched in recent NFL history, not because of what happened on the field, but because of what happened in a townhouse in Buckhead on a Tuesday afternoon. There's a version of this story that ends with a conviction, a sentence, a closed case file. But that's not the end. The Campbell family is living. They don't get a closed case file. They get to carry this forever. Authorities continue to investigate, and the charges remain allegations that have yet to be tested in court. Calais Campbell has not been convicted of anything. He's charged. The case moves forward through the Fulton County court system, but the investigation is still building. Search warrants for DNA, clothing, and the physical evidence inside that home. According to defense attorney Abdi, police have obtained search warrants for the home, clothing, and DNA. To further investigate the case, that means prosecutors are shoring up every corner of the physical evidence before this goes to trial. They're not relying solely on the arrest warrant. They're building the kind of case that withstands a mental health defense, which is almost certainly what's coming. Because here's what the defense has to work with: a documented history of schizophrenia, a pattern of erratic behavior going back months, incidents reported by multiple family members, a man who was off his medication, who set a fire in the house, who was described by his own family as someone who had overtaken the home. All of that is documented. All of it is on police reports. Another police report from mid-April stated that Calais Campbell told officers her son had not been taking medication prescribed to treat schizophrenia. The mother herself told police. That fact, surfacing now as one of the most painful details in the entire case, is that the woman who died had tried to get her son help. She knew what was happening. She told the police. She was scared enough to leave her own home for a week, and she went back. A sister told an officer that their mother lived there but had not been at the home for a week because Calais Campbell has overtaken the home. Neighbors called the police on multiple occasions to report disturbances, and Calais Campbell told an officer in mid-April that her son had not been taking medication prescribed to treat schizophrenia. None of that stops a murder charge, but it complicates it. And it raises a question that doesn't belong in a courtroom, but haunts this story. At what point does the system have the tools and the authority to intervene when someone with untreated severe mental illness is living with a vulnerable family member? The family called, the neighbors called, Nadiel herself called 10 calls to that address going back to September. And the law's answer was to come, make a report, and leave. That question isn't going to be answered in a verdict. It's a systemic question, a policy question, and it's a question that sits at the center of thousands of cases just like this one across the country. Cases that don't involve NFL players, that don't make national news, that end the same way. Now, where does Calais Campbell go from here? Calais Campbell, 39, returned to the Ravens on a one-year, $5.5 million contract in April, ahead of his 19th NFL season. A six-time Pro Bowl selection and the oldest active defensive player. Entering the 2026 campaign, Campbell has recorded 117 career sacks. He's about to walk into an NFL training camp with this hanging over him. Every press conference, every game, every week of the season, reporters will be watching. The league will be watching. And Calais will be expected to do the thing that athletes in pain are always expected to do: show up, perform, and keep it together publicly, while privately carrying something most people couldn't survive. The family has asked for privacy. They've asked the public to let them grieve on their own terms. The Campbell family issued a statement asking for privacy while they deal with overwhelming grief, saying, "We are devastated to share that the Campbell family has lost its matriarch, Mrs. Calais Campbell, a defensive lineman for the Baltimore Ravens. Calais Campbell is entering his 19th NFL season after signing a one-year, $5.5 million contract in April. That's a man about to play football while his brother sits in a jail cell, charged with murdering their mother. The foundation they built together, named after their father, run alongside their mother, designed to help other families stay together, still stands. The family, including Natil and all 7 siblings, founded the Charles R. Campbell Foundation to honor their late father. The foundation focuses on supporting children, strengthening families, and continuing Charles Campbell's legacy of community service. Strengthening families. That was the mission. And now the family it came from has been broken in the most devastating way possible. There's nothing clean about this story. There's no hero. There's no villain that makes it simple. There's a 71-year-old woman who loved her family and died in her own home. There's a son with a severe mental illness who the system documented and then lost track of. There's an NFL star preparing for what may be his final season in the sport that made his family's name, carrying a grief that nobody in that locker room has the language for. The trial is coming. The evidence is still being gathered. The courtroom will demand a verdict. But the Campbell family's story, the one that started with a father who died in 2003 and a son who built a foundation to keep his name alive, that story doesn't end with a jury's decision. It continues. Cracked open